My name is Keenan, joined by my brother Kyle. As always, Kyle, how's it going?
What's up, everybody? How we doing?
I'm great. I am great. It was a very eventful NBA weekend. So there's a lot of games, obviously a lot of very important news that we can probably just get right into. So how do you feel about everything that's been going on with Ja Morant?
How do I feel about it? Be more specific.
Yeah, like what were your initial thoughts when you saw the news, and then when you're kind of more of the stories and the news things or investigations going on? What have your thoughts been?
It's all interesting. This kind of stuff has been going on with Ja for a little bit. These stories, like the story that you've heard leaked now, if you want to call it leaked, but it's being more talked about. A story with a 17-year-old that he allegedly struck in a pickup game and then allegedly threatened with a gun after. That was circulating on Twitter a couple months ago. And you're kind of just, you're not sure if it's real. Obviously, it resurfaces after. First of all, let's address what Ja did this weekend, which was have a gun, flashing it on IG Live at a strip club. Not the brightest of things to do. Just not bright at all. And look, I think I don't remember if we talked about it last time. I think I meant to bring it up, but the Grizzlies have gone from this like young team that everyone loves to this team that everyone hates because, you know, when you got Josh saying shit
Talked
like,
about a little bit.
yeah, when you got Josh saying shit like, oh, we're not afraid of anybody in the West, like, come on, bro, humble yourself a little bit. You know what I mean? You got the Warriors there, you got Jokic and the Nuggets there. Like, they could very easily find themselves in a first round exit, let alone a second round exit, right?
They haven't done much. I mean, they went to the and they beat the Warriors in the play-in, and then they lost to the Jazz, I think in 5 or 6 the 2 years ago, and then last year they won the first round. They beat the Timberwolves in 6, and then lost to the Warriors in 6. Obviously, Ja went down, I believe end of game 2. So, I mean, we don't know how that series is going to turn out, but it's not like they've done anything.
Right, and I thought some of it was unwarranted because this has been growing from NBA fans throughout the year, right? And you know, Ja can get in players' faces, which I don't mind at all. That's pretty normal of any player. Maybe not so much much as stars, but you know, that's where I think Ja reminds me of Allen Iverson. I wasn't afraid to get in anyone's face and blah, blah, blah. So I personally like it from Ja, right? Then
yeah, absolutely.
then people just start coming with YSL Morant. Now you see one called Ja Morant is his new nickname now. Like, that kind of stuff was growing once we started hearing the 17-year-old. Like, again, because we heard some of this stuff before this whole... Right? So that whole narrative was growing. Then the Shannon Sharp thing happens. Yeah. Shannon Sharp goes on his show talking about, Ja, you ain't thug, this or that, while you're trying to act thug. Mm-hmm. And I thought, at the time, like, that was laying on a little strong, right? Because I thought Ja was, any NBA player acts like that, no matter what background they're from. You see players like Jared Dudley back in the day, he would get in people's faces, and Jared Dudley ain't hood. You know what I mean? So I thought for him to say that about Ja Morant, it was kind of unwarranted. Then you got this shit where it is like, all right, Ja, what the fuck you doing? There's no reason for you to have a gun out on IG Live on a Friday night after a game at a strip club. You IG Live in from the strip club, that's already questionable. But whatever. You can excuse it. Whatever. He's 23. He's young. Like, whatever. We've all been drunk and done stupid shit, right? But then you flash the blicky, okay, then you deserve the YSL Morant, the Ja Warrant nicknames. Oh, Ja Morant's the first nigga who's trying to get out the hood, or get out the NBA to the hood. Like, all funny stuff like that. But it's serious now, and we're 6 weeks from the playoffs. That's not what the Grizzlies need. That's not what Ja Morant needs. It's concerning. And honestly, you know what I was more concerned about, Keenan? We talked about Adam Silver. He gave him a 2-game suspension. If that's David Stern, may he rest in peace again. That's a 10-game suspension. That's a 10-game suspension at least. And taking some time to like, hey, Josh, sit down, figure shit out. You know what I mean? And the Grizzlies are doing that. It sounds like he's suspended indefinitely.
That's kind of what we were talking about last week too.
It sounds like the Grizzlies
The
suspended him
difference between Adam
indefinitely.
Silver and David Stern.
Yeah, no, yeah, he's truly like I said, like a vice principal. So that was my takeaway more so than anything Morant did was like, all right, that's kind of serious. Whether he's actually going to do shit with a gun or not, I don't think Ja would. I really don't know. We've had, like you said, these other incidents with Finish Line come out. There was a bullshit report a few months back. I don't know if you heard about it with the Pacers, like him and his friends pointing a gun with a beam on it in the players' parking lot. I don't believe that for a second because there's cameras all around players' parking lots for, they got $1 million whips in there. Anybody would have seen if that actually had happened. So I don't believe that story personally. But there's just been a growing narrative around Ja this whole season. And, it's questionable to say the least.
Yeah.
But, my takeaway
that
somehow
story,
more than that was Adam Silver.
Your takeaway was Adam Silver?
More so.
Sorry.
More so. Yeah, I see you had to flip it, but I got you.
Yeah, okay. So I had a couple takeaways from this. One, that's the last story where you're talking about the pointing lasers at people in the Indiana Pacers parking lot, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. Even though, regardless, it's true, not true, whatever, the fact that story can come out about you and now that you can believe it's true is a problem. Obviously he's done enough to where, you could kind of convince, if someone said that about Nikola Jokic, you'd be like, that's absolutely not true. Why would that even, no one would ever say that, Jokic's brothers or whatever friends are just doing that. Unless, obviously information came out.
His brothers I could believe.
Well, his brothers feel like more of the type that would go and just wait outside arms crossed. I couldn't see that. But anyways, he's just not a good look that can even be a story. When I first saw this, I was like,
I think it's very unfair though, some of these stories. Specifically the Pacers one. The other ones the other ones have police reports, but the one with the NBA and the Pacers specifically saying they had a gun with a beam on it, there would be so much available footage of that we would have seen that by now. So that I found completely unfair to Ja. These other ones with the 17-year-old, the one with the finish line where him and his guys are pulling up 9 deep, right? On a teenage employee. Those are police reports. So those actually happened and those can be substantiated.
Yeah.
But specifically the Pacers report of him and his friends waiting outside the team bus, scaring the bus off with a gun, that is hardly believable. And we would have seen more players talk about that. We would have seen the footage by now, because there's cameras in all these.
Yeah, some Pacers player would have came out and mentioned something about it at this point.
Yeah, so that's completely unfair, and it just sounds ridiculous anyway. It just sounds ridiculous off top. Matter of fact, when back in the day, just real quick, just to compare it, when Carmelo and KG had their little thing, the Celtics and Knicks, and Melo waited for KG at the team bus, we saw footage of that. It would have been the same exact thing with Ja, you know what I mean? There would have been footage of it, especially if he was going out of his way to be in the Pacers, or I guess it would have been the Pacers parking lot, whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah.
I don't know. There would have been footage.
Yeah, you would have seen something about it for sure. But I had a couple first, my initial thoughts. My first thought was you got a Nike deal and your signature shoe hasn't even dropped yet, but we've seen them. They look dope. I like the look of them. I know you were thinking about getting them, obviously, because you had mentioned talking to me about it if we got them at the store. And I just hate that for him. Obviously, this is something he can come back from. It's not like he's absolutely out of the league or will never be able to get anything ever again. But the first thing I thought of was man, how is this going to affect Nike? How is this going to affect him endorsement-wise moving forward? Because Ja, the player, is still going to get chances for sure. Because again, nothing has been completely come down on him yet, and the Grizzlies are clearly all in on Ja regardless. So he's going to get multiple chances to be able to right the wrongs that he had done. That is for sure. The second thought that I had after that was LeBron and Steph were two in particular, more in particular LeBron, because it's like how a lot of superstars get the spotlight and they do one thing or another. It doesn't have to just be this, but they get into the spotlight and they don't always know how to act because of the fact that it's all new to them. It's fame, it's fortune. A lot of people didn't come from it, and then now they got it, and so they're like, they want to flaunt it off. They want to do this. They want to do that. They don't know how to say no. They put themselves in the not the best of situations, and then they find themselves getting into trouble or just putting themselves in precarious situations. LeBron has been in the spotlight since he was 14, high school, everything, and to this day, we don't hear anything about him. He's a model citizen. I was saying the same thing with Steph. Obviously, his parents were. Dell was in the NBA, and so he's been there for a while. And there's a lot more athletes, too. Klay Thompson's another one that comes to mind. Luka's been, like, a lot of people have been perfectly fine. LeBron was the perfect one because he's been in the spotlight, zoomed in on him for so long, and we talk about everything possible LeBron, like, this game for all 82 pretty much, and he hasn't had a single incident at all that would even remotely put yourself in that front. So that was another thought of mine too. But I just hope that this is everything that happened, it just gets stopped with Ja. I don't want anything moving forward. He could be one of the faces of the NBA. I mean, he's already becoming one, but really one of the faces of the NBA, because in a couple of years, he probably will be the best American-born NBA player if things are trajecting well, because obviously there's Embiid, there's Jokic, there's Giannis, there's Luka, Wembanyama, if he progresses into what we think he can be. Like, I mean, obviously him or Tatum, but like, he has such a lane for him that he's like obviously one of the most electrifying players. He has such a marketing deal. I even saw him the other day going grocery shopping on a Dunkaroos, like the old like sugar and cracker thing. Dunkaroos, obviously it fits him because his jaw, he can clearly dunk. So I just hope he doesn't ruin any of that for him moving forward. But I hope this gets stopped. Essentially, I hope he's able to fix what he needs to fix, and then we get to move forward and get to see the best of Ja.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think like it's not Gilbert Arenas levels, right?
No, it's not. It's not Agent Zero bringing the strap to the arena.
But to me, this is the equivalent to, like I already mentioned him in comparison to Iverson. Iverson early in his career made a rap album that David Stern blocked from coming out because of the content that was in it. You know, I mean, it would have been some hood shit. You know what I mean? It just would have been bad for the brand at that time. Now you got Lillard and Bridges and everyone raps now, right? In the NBA, puts out projects, whatever.
Yeah.
So to me, it was kind of akin to that. I think it just, like you said, it happens after these string of incidents where you hear like gun-related incidents with Ja or threatening behavior with Ja. I mean, I really think it's just stupid, immature behavior. Putting a gun on IG Live. Like, I would say, hey, man, while you got a gun, you should have other people in your crew that have guns. But, I mean, you know, who am I to say that? I don't know what necessarily Ja is or is not going through. Flashing it on IG Live, that's a dumbass part of it all. You know what I mean?
That's just not needed. Also, someone around him, like, I don't know, obviously, I'm not calling out the people around him at all. They could be great people. We don't know. I don't know any of them, obviously. But someone around you, you've got to put people around you that are going to check you on those kind of things. Like, that may not be the move. Like, I understand you're going to go on your own IG Live and you're going to just flash the gun on your own IG Live. I get it. You want to show that you're having a good time. That's fine. That's the age that we're in. Good. Cool. We don't need to be doing that. You are a role model. You're you're face of a franchise. You're probably the best player in franchise history. You have the chance to be one of the faces, if not the face of the league, at some point in your career, and make almost $1 billion throughout your playing career and going on. Like, we don't need to be doing that. It's like he just needs someone in his corner. If it needs to be T. Morant, if it needs to be whoever his friends are. Obviously, like Steven Adams, report came out that Steven Adams had a players-only meeting before the incident happened. Obviously, it was directed at Ja, but he didn't actually give names. We all knew who the forefront of that conversation was about. So just hopefully someone in that circle of his can be able to kind of be a mentor almost and make sure that he's not falling down that path again.
Yeah, it's all a weird situation. It's very much a 2023
It really is.
sports situation. It's unfortunate that it has to be a firearm. You know what I mean? Like he's showing off the blicky. Like that's just it's just all just silly. You know what I mean? Because there's no need for it. But I mean, look, he's gonna be back a week or two from now, and he's gonna ball out just like he always does. And then it's gonna be playoff time, and that's gonna be the talk whether they. I mean, shit. Like I said I think it was last podcast. I said he's got some bad karma coming for him. That might be it right there. You know, for the all the we're not afraid of anybody in the West. You know, you do got to humble yourself at some point. This league will humble you, as any professional league will. You know, if you're a young star. Yeah. So, like you said, he's got everything going for him. He's got a shoe deal, which not many players do. You know, especially at a Nike or an Adidas. You know, you do. You know, it's a select group there. You might have 5 NBA players who have their own signature shoes. So that's not going to go away. He's
really. I think right now you got 12, maybe
between the two companies.
Like 10 or 12.
Yeah, like
I think because
if it's off of Jordan brand, Nike, Adidas, you know, if it's anybody but that, like Puma, I guess Under Armour with Steph, you know what I mean. But you know, usually you can kind of. Yeah. You got some obscure players, especially like in the Chinese markets, like Li Ning, like Clay's got his own shoe and all that, you know. I would imagine there's not many players buying Klay Thompson, young players buying Klay Thompson shoes. You know, most players want Nike or Adidas. But, you know.
You really got like 7. You got Giannis, you got Kyrie, you got Bron, you got Harden, you got Curry.
Formerly Kyrie.
Donovan Mitchell, Trae Young. What?
Formerly Kyrie. Ja pretty much took his spot.
Kyrie,
but no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
though,
Ja took his spot.
Paul George.
But so you had those 7, Paul George as well. So you have about 10 players in the league who really have their own shoe. Luka was another one that I hadn't mentioned. Like Jokic doesn't even have his own line yet. Like he definitely could. He's obviously great enough to. I have a question about him later on, but it's a select group that you get that, and Ja, deservingly so, deserves to be in that group because he's an amazing athlete, he's an amazing basketball player, and he's marketable. So yeah. I just hope that I hope this is just a little bump in the road rather than being a completely turn left. That's all.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. I'm not worried about Ja Morant at all. Like I said, I think he comes back in a week, 2 weeks' time. He's going to ball out, and the conversation's not going to be anything to do with this. It will be when they lose, you know, just because I've said it here a million times. NBA fan discourse is the absolute fucking worst. Like, this will be Ja Morant could average 35 and get bounced from round 2, and they'll somehow still bring this shit up. You know what I mean? So,
absolutely, they always do.
You know, I expect him to, like I said, I expect him to bounce back. Everything will go pretty copacetic, I would believe. And then, you know, whatever their success in the postseason is, it'll hinge on not just him, you know what I mean? But a big part of it will be him. And, you know, that'll be the conversation,
yep.
You know? I mean, we've seen Ja mix it up a few times, and especially with the whole Shannon Sharp thing, even though that was more Dylan Brooks. But we've never seen Ja try to fight someone on the court or anything like that. So, no, I'm not worried about Ja Morant at all.
Yeah, no, I would say I'm not worried because I think this is something that you can. It's not like he's gone down such a bad road that he can't come back from it. He can definitely come back from it. He just needs to make sure he's surrounding himself with good people and moving forward, making good decisions.
Absolutely.
That are gonna. He now understands how big his brand is and how important he is as a person, what his decisions and things are.
Yeah. Normal young.
So next, something I wanted to bring up.
Sure. Go ahead.
Wait, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say so I had mentioned Jokic a little bit ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually talking with people at work today, and obviously, Embiid, Jokic, you got to throw Giannis in there because he's always there. Luka a little bit, but the way the Mavericks are playing record-wise, he's probably out of it. And then Tatum would be probably roughly your 5 for MVPs right now.
Yeah, I would say
I might be forgetting one.
I would say a 4-person race and really a 3-person race with Tatum on the outside looking in. You know what I mean? Tatum can kind of squeeze his way in.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're more be on the outside, but you'd pretty much have the 3 players that it was pretty much last year would be the same as this year, I would say. I don't know if you would agree with that.
And pretty much on and on until...
Yeah, I'd say pretty much.
On and on until one of them really starts having, and I hope they don't, until they get injury problems. I think it'll be those 3 and Doncic, so long they have a successful team. I think it'll be those 4. And Morant. Morant, too, would be in there,
Yeah,
but especially those 3, the stats they get.
I think Tatum.
And Tatum. But those 3 specifically, like Embiid, Jokic, Giannis, their stats are going to be so astronomical all the time, and their success will be so prominent because of how effective they are as players. They're always going to be in the conversation.
Yeah. Yep.
So go ahead.
Jokic.
Yep.
Jokic has a chance to win 3 MVPs in a row since the first time since birth, like a legitimate chance at doing so. I didn't think he was going in the year, but he's been playing phenomenal, and he would completely deserve it if he did. And I was thinking about it, like when and I even took it back to, because you don't have a lot of 3-peats, but you do have a lot of 2-peats. Mm-hmm. And other than Steve Nash, usually when you're 2-peating, you're at least the top 2 player in the league, if not top 1.
Sure.
Is Jokic, in your mind, a top 2 player in the league? Because in mine, he's not. Which is what's weird about his MVPs. The only thing is, I feel a lot like if you're a consensus, like obviously it's an opinionated thing, but the consensus would have him probably around anywhere from 4 to 6. Or 4 to 5, 4 to 6, roughly in that range.
It would depend. I think certainly, I think he's got to be top 4. Regular season, look, if we're just talking regular season, yeah, he's as good as anybody for the regular season. As good as Giannis, as good as Embiid, as good as Doncic. Throw a player out, Jokic is as good as them in the regular season. In the postseason, his numbers are just as good. Yeah. But if you were to ask me,
winning success. I mean, they went to
the conference finals, right?
Go on.
But if you were to ask me, like, what does the Nuggets' success depend on in the postseason this year, especially them being the 1 seed, and it looks like they'll keep the 1 seed. My biggest question would be Jokic and the 5 pick and roll. As the switch man, as the drop man, all that, right? Because it's an actual question. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's a 0 on defense. You know what I mean? I don't think it's 2016 Steph. Obviously, Jokic isn't as fleet of foot as Embiid or Giannis, right? Like, he's not. They can switch onto a guard and be fine. Especially Giannis. Jokic can't. But that's what the postseason's for. We'll get to see exactly. If Jokic can get to the finals and at least go toe-to-toe with whoever they got, then he's for sure top 3. I mean, that's, like you said, before you even factor in, he might have 3 straight MVPs. So he's got to be in that top 3 or 4. I definitely put him ahead of Doncic. And I think he's ahead of Embiid.
You put him ahead of Luka?
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. Luka very much,
that's tough.
As effective as Luka is, Luka's very much not a team player yet. He's very much looking for his shot. Whereas Jokic could care less about scoring. And you can see, look what his supporting cast last year. He was down his top 2 players. He gets them a 6 seed. Is not far out of the 3 seed, right? Like, there wasn't much splitting the 6 from the 3. They got obviously knocked out by the Warriors in the first round, but like, what Jokic can do with pretty much anybody around him is pretty insane. Whereas Luka is very much dribbling for 17 out of 24 seconds with the ball in his hand, and it's him deciding who he wants to dish to, this and that. Jokic, the ball's swinging a lot of the times, and he's still getting these numbers, triple doubles most of the season, which is insane. So yeah, Luka's still a tier below Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis to me right now as players, not even just in the MVP talk, as a player. Yeah.
Is Curry in that?
Curry, he is, but I mean, he's been so.
Doncic.
I would have Curry ahead of Doncic. I mean, Curry would be in that top group for me too, but he can't stay healthy like these guys right now. Like, he's banged up every 6 weeks, it seems like. And again, that's where we'll have the postseason to really settle these arguments, which is why I love the postseason so much. Thing is, with postseason, you got to have nuance. As I said, you go look at Jokic, his scoring goes up, his rebounds go up, his assists drop because he's focusing on scoring more. It's very clear that they don't lose because of Jokic. And if, specifically this year, if they were to get bounced in like the second round, it would be deserved the criticism he gets. But I don't think it's fair to criticize him in the way like, you know, LeBron's a different story, but like, let's say James Harden. We've talked about him a lot. You can very well point to James Harden and say, okay, they're losing these playoff series because he's not showing up. Jokic shows up. We've seen Doncic. He more than shows up. Morant showed up last year up until he got injured. Giannis shows up. So I want some nuance in the discussion with that. But to answer specifically about Curry, yeah, we'll see in the postseason because, I mean, I'll get to Curry more once we talk about the Warriors more. We'll say that because I'm sure you got some Warriors questions.
I don't see how Curry's not in that conversation. I don't see how Curry's not in that.
He is, but I mean, he's played 40 games this year, right? He's played somewhere below, right? He's like around 40, so he's played much less games than
he played 40. He's played 40 this year. He played 64 last year. He played 63 the year before, and then he played 69 2 years before. Obviously, he broke his wrist that 1 year, but like he's been, I mean, consistently around that 64, 65 for the last couple of years.
We're talking about this season.
But
though.
I mean,
this season he's played.
Well, obviously this season, and he's played 40 games this year. So definitely he's been banged up. But I don't.
So that's my thing.
But I mean,
that's exactly where I'm getting at. Is we'll see with Steph in the postseason. Right now, I can't put him at the every night level as them because he's not there every night. You know what I mean? Same with Kawhi. Whereas Kawhi, the way he's playing right now, if you put Kawhi and Curry's stats there, sure, they're on that level. But they're not every night players as of right now. Kawhi has been for the last month, but, you know, Curry, if he can ever put 2 or 3 months together, then yeah, he probably very well would be in this discussion right now, and the Warriors' record would be a lot better. But that's just not the case right now. You know, Warriors are in the play-in position, whereas Embiid and the Sixers, Giannis and the Bucks, and Jokic and the Nuggets, they're all either fighting or secured top seeds right now. So that's the only difference with Curry, but the postseason has a chance to flip all that. So we shall see.
I guess for me, him being injured this year doesn't take him out of the spot that he was going into the season, because when he has played on the court, he has been better than he was last season. So I guess for me, so for me, he wouldn't change in the spot that I'd have him. But the Luka Jokic one is interesting to me because I did not think you would have Jokic ahead of Luka, which is that so you would have it be right now Giannis, Jokic, Embiid, then Steph would be your top 4, then probably Luka at 5. Like if I was
something like that, and I'd probably
order it.
It all depends on how you're ordering it. Really, to me, it's Giannis, Embiid, and Jokic all 1A, 1B, 1C. It doesn't matter, really. It depends on the night, right? Then you got, like I said, Curry and Kawhi. When they're in there, when they're playing at as high of a level as either one of those 3 guys right now. Luka, yeah, he is too, but Luka's offense is give Luka the ball and let him do what he wants with it, right? His usage rate is hella high. He accumulates assists, but, you know, you want to talk about like the comparisons with him and LeBron. LeBron is so much more pass first than Doncic. Doncic ain't even looking for his guys unless he absolutely has to. Which, by the way, any shot's a good shot for him. He can overpower any of his matchups, so I get it. But no, I wouldn't have him on the level of Giannis, Jokic, or Embiid yet. And like I said, after those three, it really doesn't matter because no one plays consistently anymore. So it's really so hard to like judge these guys. But in the case of Doncic, I think Doncic is like 2 years away from like really being like dead ass serious about this league the way Giannis, Embiid, and Jokic are. And that's very normal for a young player, you know? So I just see him being a little me first right now in my estimation from what I'm watching.
I get it.
Stats
I
are great,
agree with the fact that I think that's why I think that's why I said before. I know we had talked about this maybe 6 months ago, roughly. I said before that I think kind of like how in a different way, kind of how Mike was. I think that that Luka at some point is going to have to change his play a little bit, and the way he's ball dominant. Obviously, Mike didn't have the players around him. You got Scotty around him. You got the triangle offense, and obviously we know the rest is history. 6 finals, 6 MVPs. We get it. We got all that. But like Luka's gonna have to change. Like he's gonna need to get a player and then change the way that he kind of orchestrates his offense because it is really hard for people to play with him. Like that is a thing just because of how ball control he is. So that's why it's hard to get a real second star of stars. We'll see how it is with Kyrie, but it's more of a back and forth thing rather than a kind of work in conjunction thing. So I get what you're saying there. Like if you had to start a team, you might start it with Jokic instead of Luka because of the fact that you feel you can get a more fluid offense that way. But I think personally, they're on the same level. I think that I have Giannis a touch above everybody else, and then I would have Steph, Luka, KD, Jokic, and Embiid kind of on their same tier. Like I think they're all around the same. The way they, if going into a season, obviously going into a season, everyone you would want, but like I think all of them affect the game tremendously in the ways that they do, and it's comparable each way. It's just obviously they do it completely different. Jokic as a point guard, KD as such a pure scorer, but he doesn't need to dribble the ball. Lucas, how he controls the ball. Steph, of how he can get everybody else involved without actually touching the ball, and then Embiid being able to do it on both ends. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, again, I would agree with you with Durant, Curry, Kawhi, whoever else you want to put in there. Tatum as well. Tatum, tremendous two-way player. I just think Jokic, Giannis, and Embiid, and let me throw Tatum in there too, and I'll throw Doncic. But again, Doncic, the ball's literally in his hands 24/7, where it's not with these guys as much. It might seem it with Embiid, but Harden's got the rock a lot, right? What they're doing, and let me throw Jokic in on both ends too. He's active on defense. He's getting defensive rebounds, which is part of defense. I think what they're doing on a night-to-night basis is similar to what we saw 6-7 years ago at their peak with Curry, Durant, all that. When they were giving you 70 some odd games of this every night. That's just where they are. I've said this many times, you know. Giannis said it. Curry, he's got the crown right now. He won the finals last year. Curry's got the crown. He's going to have the crown when they go into the postseason. Lord willing that the Warriors make it. They're still in the play-in fight right now. But the Warriors make it in, the Warriors and Curry are going to have the target on their back, more so than Giannis or Jokic or any of these guys. So, you know, we'll see this. The title is as open as possible right now. Any one of those teams could win it, you know, especially if you're Jokic and the Nuggets, Philly and Embiid, and fuck we talking about? It's third guy there, Giannis and the Bucks.
We got the Celtics. We got the Giannis.
Talking more so about those Bucks, the three-headed MVP monster, but yes, Celtics too. Everybody, you know, it's completely wide open, and you know, we could further this into a different discussion. I think, you know, we were talking about load management. A lot of this, to me, Keenan, you'll remember when we had the bubble playoffs, we called it adult AAU. Everything that's happened with the NBA since then reminds me of AAU. Like this upcoming tournament that we're going to have reminds me of AAU, you know, where the Clippers have they're like kind of a sneaky contender, even though we haven't seen their whole squad together. The Warriors are probably going to be a 6 or a 7 seed. Haven't had their whole squad a lot of the year, and they're going to be as dangerous as anybody. You know what I mean? It's going to be as constructed. Who are your 8? Who are your 6, 7 guys that you trust? And let's go, because there's only very few teams, the Bucks, the Celtics, and Nuggets, and maybe the Sixers. Those are probably the 4 teams where you know for sure what you're getting as far as their top 8. You know what I mean? They've been relatively healthy. The Bucks not so much, but, you know, across the years we have, and they look to be shaping into form. Middleton will be a starter by then. He's coming off the bench for the Bucks. But the Nuggets, Celtics, Bucks, and Sixers, we know what we're getting as far as their top 8. Everyone else, they've got the talent and they've got the ability. What are they going to do? That's why I think, and I'd throw the Grizzlies in there as well. The Grizzlies know their squad quite a bit too. You know, they've got some camaraderie there too.
Yeah.
But like the Warriors, I think are as dangerous as anybody, no matter what their seed are, just because I think their starting 5 statistically is the best in the league when they're on the court. And they've got terrible, we were talking before, they've got a terrible road record. It's like 7-24, maybe even 7-25 after tonight. And I don't even give a shit about that.
Yes.
Whereas in other years, if this was any other year, or how the NBA was even 3 to 5 years ago, where players actually played on a nightly basis, I would say, damn, there's something there. Warriors don't look like they're going to repeat. Now I could give a fuck about that road record because it means nothing.
There's a little bit there, but like...
Yeah, it's a little bit. Like it's definitely a trend, but I mean, you're giving me 4 road games for them in a 7-game series. Yeah, I think they can win 2 of those. You know what I mean? And then you got 2 more you got to win at home.
Like,
I'm not as afraid in a 7-game series.
They might only need to win 1.
Yeah, you just never know.
They might only need to win 1, honestly. The way they're playing at home, they're 27-7 right now. But you've got Curry, you've got Clay, you've got Draymond, you got Jordan Poole, you got Kevon Looney. I say those guys just because they won a championship last year. They like Kuminga, like all of them, Wiggins, they all won a championship last season. Steve Kerr coached that team clearly last season. They went on the road in Boston. They went on the road in Denver. They went on the road in Dallas. They went on the road in Memphis. Like they've gone on the road before. To think that they can't win a single game on the road in the playoffs, like in each series, is kind of wild. So they definitely have a chance just as much as anybody, as you have said. Something I was interested in, because I was thinking about this Jokic thing, and then I was like, okay, so where would I have him? Because I would have him around the 4 or 5, 6-ish area, and then I was thinking about him, the MVPs plus that. I understand people who have him higher. That's just where I have him. And then I was going through, and I made like a top 20 list. The players that are not on the top 20, to me, I think it's crazy. Because like if you were to just say like certain, like I'm going to name off a couple. Like I don't have Karl Anthony Towns. I don't have Trae Young. I don't have Pascal Siakam. I don't have Kyrie. I don't. Zion just doesn't play enough for me to even have him there. Like De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, Jalen Brunson, Bam Adebayo, Drew Holiday, Bradley Beal. Like these are just some names that are not in my top 20, and it's crazy to think that like if you heard it on its face, you'd be like, how are they not? But then you go through 20 players, and you're like, oh.
Well, there's a few right there that you just said.
That actually.
I mean, I don't know if they fall in the 25, but it would be hard for me to find someone to take Kyrie out right now, the level Kyrie's playing at. Drew Holiday, especially the way Drew Holiday's playing on both ends. And Brunson.
It's really tough. Okay, so I'm gonna name you. So I'm gonna name you who it is, and I get you could probably take one of these players, but I also
give me a 20 to 1
I guess
right
I
now.
just don't
Give me a 20 to 1, and I'll tell you.
Paul George.
I could take him out, even though he played phenomenal the other night.
See, like you can have like I think when you get down to the other, like the bottom of it, you can have arguments. I'm not trying to make it sound like they have no shot at it.
No, I know. I'm just saying, immediately Paul George would be on my fringe Up until, like I said, he looked phenomenal the other night. That's why, like, if him and Kawhi are playing the way they were the other night, whereas Kawhi had a quiet 32, and Paul George ended with either 38 or 42, something like that. Paul George was the best player on the court.
Quiet 32. That's crazy. That's a thing now.
I did not even realize. I was watching that whole 32. Game. Paul George was the best player on the court, and I knew Kawhi was getting buckets. But I look at the box score after, and I say, Kawhi had 32. Yeah, it was a quiet 32 for sure. Anyway, keep going. Paul George at 20.
There's no one that gets more quiet numbers than KD. Like KD can have like almost a quiet 40 sometimes.
He really can.
It's like it's just KD.
He really can.
But so I had Paul George at 20. I had James Harden at 19. I got Anthony Edwards at 18. I got Jaylen Brown at 17. I got Donovan Mitchell at 16. I got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 15. I got Jimmy Butler at 14. I got Devin Booker at 13.
Jimmy Butler out immediately though. I would have Jimmy Butler fall out for at least Brunson or Holiday, one of those two guys, because those two just right now at this moment.
It's hard because like if you
at this moment right now, this moment in time, March 7th, 2023, Drew Holiday and Jalen Brunson are both playing at a higher level than Jimmy Butler is at this moment right now.
And I think that's 100% fair. But then like I guess for this list too, I get thought about myself because normally I go off of like how I make my list always, as I've always said, is if I had to draft somebody right now, where would I draft them? Like if I had to go for a season, where would I draft them? And that's how I'd make my list because obviously you would take the best player first, and then the second best player second, and then the third, and so on. So if I had to draft them going into just this season, where would I draft them? It's always how I kind of mentally do my lists. And that's kind of where it came out of. And so and at 13 I have Devin Booker. This 12 through 7, it legitimately depends on the day, and this is with everybody completely healthy. This is not me taking not into health. The way I did it now, and then I'm looking at this, I could probably switch it. I'd probably have Anthony Davis 12, have Kawhi 11, I'd have Dame 10, LeBron 9, Ja 8, Tatum 7, Embiid 6, Durant 5, Jokic 4, Luka 3, Steph 2, Giannis 1. And again, on that like 12 through 7 or 12 through 8, you could convince me on a day that you could just flip Kawhi and Ja from 12 to 8, and I would be like, okay, I understand. Like it really, that mix, they're so close in players.
I'm gonna continue.
So that's kind of where I have it now.
I'm gonna continue with the same thing.
Go on.
It's pretty much like what you said. You could honestly 15 to 1. You could put in almost any order at any point during the year. You know what I mean? Like when I was talking about the top 3 earlier, I didn't even mention Durant, and I think Durant still plays as high of a level as any one of those guys. But again, him and Steph.
Yeah, he just had 37,
an easy 37
the other night off 12 to 17.
An easy 37.
12 to 17.
Again, I'll put him, Kawhi, and Curry in the same group, just because they seem to get unfortunate injuries. Curry gets rolled up on quite a bit. Kawhi just gets these freak injuries. Durant, I think the last 3 or 4 injuries he's had, it's someone knocking into his knee or something like that. You know what I mean? Whenever they're healthy, they look exactly how they looked 4 years ago. It's just when they're healthy. Yeah. These lists are so hard, whereas, maybe 5-6 years ago they were easier because everyone played a little more, so it was a little more concrete. But on any given day, Paul George could be in that top 15. He could be in the 30 range. Same with Drew Holiday. Same with Kyrie, as you mentioned, like these people who are on the outside looking in. Anthony Edwards, that's a hard one for me because he's such a rising star. But it's hard to estimate his impact because he does have quality players around him too. But I'd want Anthony Edwards on my team. And Tatum.
He upped everything this year. Obviously, with Towns out, but yeah, go on.
And I feel like Tatum, I mean, I'm a Celtics fan. I feel like I often overlook him with these other guys just because I don't know what it is. Because he
flashy, I guess. I think it just becomes he doesn't.
I don't even think
he doesn't put up like.
I don't even think he's less flashy. I think he does put up these monster stat lines. It's just like I don't know what it is because he scores the ball at will. It's really tough to guard him. He's become such a better playmaker. He's consistently getting between like 7 and 10 rebounds. But at the same time, I will say like he's a better two-way player than Jokic, right? But it doesn't seem like he reaches the highs that Jokic does. You know, him being a possible 3-time MVP.
He seems to have a little bit more floors. Like I'm going through his game log right now. Like his last 7 games. We'll go from his. He had
that bad
38
Philly
against
game.
the Pistons right before the break. Yeah, he went 38 against the Pistons right before. Then he had 31 against the Pacers. Then 18 against the Sixers. Had 14 against the Knicks, but then bounces back with 41 against the Cavs. Then goes 22 against the Nets, and then comes back with 40 against the Knicks. So it's like I feel with him, he doesn't have the. He's obviously a super consistent player. He's averaging 30 this year. I'm not trying to... But, like, I feel like when those next-level guys have just a hair more of consistency. Like, I feel like you just don't get those 14-point games from Jokic all that often. And if you do, it's normally tied with a triple-double of him actually being impactful. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like there's just a little, and it's like a hair. It's not even like a lot because he's still obviously averaging 39 and 5 this season, which is incredible.
No, he's been so consistent.
He's a little inconsistent compare.
Yeah, and I don't even think he's that inconsistent.
And
I
it's
think
hard because it's not even really inconsistent.
It's not even inconsistency because he always plays hard.
It's just comparatively.
Here's the thing with him. He always plays hard. Absolutely. And when he's not playing hard, he's not just out there kind of like moping that his shot ain't falling. Like that game against Philly where he hit the game-winning shot. He was trying to get other players involved. He was still rebounding. He's still playing defense at a high level. I think they got such a great supporting cast in Boston. Sometimes it's easy for him to have those bad games because Jaylen Brown and because Marcus Smart, Derek White, all these guys are going to pick it up. Horford's playing at a high level since the break.
Yep.
But, yeah, I really don't know what it is. I can't quantify it. I really can't. I've been watching Tatum his whole career, and there's a part of me that just thinks he's like, if Jokic and all those guys, I say this comparison a lot, but if they're all 100, which they're not, you know what I mean? But, if they're at 100 right now, I feel like Tatum's at like a 97.5. And I can't even quantify what that reason is because he truly does play his ass off. He truly does give a shit. Like him and Jaylen don't even fall under these players who don't play. Like they're two that suit up every night. You know what I mean? They don't try to do the whole load management shit. Granted, they gave Tatum the night off last night after the double OT game. I have separate thoughts for Boston too. I mean,
but that's more reasonable.
Yeah, more reasonable after the double OT game. And with him, it's few and far between where they do that with him. It's not every week where he's going to miss one or every 2 weeks where he's going to miss one. He plays for the most part.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, on one sense, I think it's twofold. I think we have a lot of talent in the league where we can make it difficult for these top 25 lists, top 20, whatever. And it's, as I've been saying, this load management, the injuries. It's so hard to quantify Steph, Kawhi, KD. And I feel like that's been escalating over the last 3-4 years since pretty much like right around before the bubble or after it, where it was very hard to quantify these stars compared to the stars who play but put up ridiculous stats. Jokic, Giannis, and Embiid, they've been doing it for so long now.
I want to put on Shai right now. The way Shai's been playing this year, he's been putting up stupid stats this year, but obviously and he's been playing more, but you wouldn't ever take Shai over Curry just obviously because you know what Curry's done in the postseason.
Can I take that? Can I take that a step down real quick? Can I take that a step down?
Go for it.
Because of where you had this player I'm about to mention ranked, and we just talked about him quite a bit last podcast. Is Dame. Shai's probably putting up better stats than Dame this year, right? Because Shai's a 30-point per game scorer. He's probably played more games than Dame, if I had to guess. And I love SGA. Love his game. Loved him since he came out of Kentucky. And I think he's a franchise guy. Clearly, OKC thinks that because he was in the Paul George trade. But I'm probably not taking SGA over Dame right now. You know what I mean? Dame, you put Dame on any team, he can flip a championship right now. If you put him on, just take Dame and just put him on any one of those playoff teams that are ahead of him. Like, he's going to be in the play-in conversation, sure. But you put Dame on, who? Put Dame in Kyrie's spot right now.
Put Dame on the Cavs.
Put Dame on the Cavs. Put Dame in Kyrie's spot.
I was putting Dame in the Cavs instead of Garland, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like, Dame's just at the peak of his powers right now. He's scary. Like, there's not many players I would put ahead of Dame right now. And,
let's see.
And then,
Dame right now is averaging 32, 5, and 7 on 47% from the floor, 37%.
He's averaging 32 for the year.
Shai's averaging 31, 5, and 6.
Dame's averaging 32 for God.
He's averaging 30.
Yeah, no.
He's averaging 32 a game. And then Shai's averaging 31, 5, and 6 with a steal and a half and a block a game.
Look, you're not
averaging from 51% from the floor, 34% from 3.
You're not going to like it, but
they're playing phenomenal both, obviously.
You're not going to like me saying this, and we kind of touched on it before, but man, Dame and Steph is kind of a conversation. It just kind of is. That the level that Dame's playing at right now on the team he's on is very reminiscent to me of like Kobe, those years after Shaq where he had a shit team and he was putting up ridiculous numbers. Dame doesn't want to leave, and
reminiscent of Steph 2 years ago.
And that too. But
I would say he averaged 32, 5, and 6 on 48% shooting 2 years ago when they had no Clay. It was really just him, Draymond, and a bunch of young players. Mm-hmm. And they were in the kind of same position. I think they were like 15 games over 500. He had that stretch where he went like 11 straight games of 30 plus with 50. Or like he had a stretch towards the end of the season that was phenomenal. But yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Dame's very comparable to Steph. I just honestly think the way Steph affects the game without the ball is kind of what takes him a little better, as I said, a little better ball handler, and the way he affects the game without the ball makes him a baby step above. But it's very comparable. I'm not trying to take anything away from Dame. Dame, with the ball in his hands, is a magician.
Absolutely. And without it, too. I mean, I don't think he moves as much as Curry. Not many players do.
Oh, yeah.
As much as Curry or Clay without the ball. But Dame's certainly not Luka out there. And I don't want this to sound like I'm shitting on Luka, but I was watching Luka more closely this weekend than before. And there were several times Luka, and this is not a diss. This is like not rightfully so, but there was times where Luka looked off Kyrie because he had a mismatch on him. But the second guy was coming in, you know what I mean? So he was still putting up a tough shot. What probably seemed easy because he's shooting over this guy. You know what I mean? Like, if you're shooting over someone 6'2", that's always going to be a good shot for Luka. But you also got a wide open Kyrie right there in the elbow. You know, and I just saw several times where he's looking off great shooters for what ended up being a foul. So he ends up going to the line for 2, but he very much seems right now like a me first guy. But that's extremely common for someone who's 23 with the franchise in their hands. You know, that's not surprising at all.
And he's been the best player. He's been the best player on every single team he's ever played on, and he's been the me first guy pretty much on every single team he's ever played on. Like, yeah, Kyrie right now.
I guess where I think that's different though is we were told he was so heavily compared to LeBron for his pass first nature that Jokic truly has, that LeBron himself definitely has, and Doncic is not.
I hate LeBron comparisons more than anything.
They were deserved with Doncic because he was the greatest European prospect, right? That's what we were told, and he has lived up to that.
He's putting up LeBron statistical numbers. Like
they're very comparable to their start of their careers.
At this point in time.
they're very comparable to the start of their careers.
Absolutely,
but where the difference is that Doncic might get the assist numbers, but he's not looking to pass even as much as James Harden was on the Rockets. Even James Harden was looking for his guys more than.
It's the same as Westbrook.
I think Westbrook looks for his guys.
Like Doncic reminds me a little bit of Westbrook.
I think Westbrook looks for his guys.
Like Thunder Westbrook. Thunder Westbrook was like a game-to-game kind of guy. Like, there would be some games where he would go in and just be like, yeah, I'm just going to do me, and I'll probably get 10 assists by just doing me. And then there were other games where he went in and it was like, I'm going to get other people involved today. And I feel like Luka kind of can be the same way. Because there are games where it looks like Luka's trying to actively get everybody involved even more, and then there are games where it really just becomes it's me first. Like I'm going for this one, guys. So he just has a little bit of maturing to his game, like not the physical, like his play style, but just like how he goes about it. I think there's just a little bit more maturing to his game that he has to do. But yeah. I mean, saying that makes me probably a Luka hater.
No, I think Luka wants to win. I just don't think he's. My whole point is I don't think he's as pass first as his scouting report coming into the league was. I'm saying if you watch him, the assist numbers might be there, but those assist numbers are like, okay, I fucking have to pass it. Westbrook, since you mentioned Westbrook, I think the narrative around him his whole career has been terrible, and I really don't understand where it came from. I think most of the time he looks to pass. Like I think the whole conversation, if you want to have a conversation about Westbrook, should always be his decision making in crunch time. That I think is faulty. Every other part of the game, he will always take dumb shots here and there. That's always been a part of him. He'll take dumb shots, but he's never been like this. What people made Allen Iverson to be at one point in his career, or what it looks like with Doncic, where he's like, I need to get 35 points. You know what I mean? Like, I need it. Westbrook very much has always looked for his teammates. I think there's times where those Durant years where it might have looked like he was taking shots from Durant at times, but he's always looking for his teammates. He's very rare. Like, I was going to get to it when we were talking about teams themselves, but the Clippers need Westbrook. He is the only one who can actually dictate the pace of the game, dictate who's going to get the ball. When Westbrook's out of the game, the Clippers lose all of that, and they desperately need it. Like, Westbrook is very much a true point guard, and I don't understand the narrative where it came from that, he's just not a team first guy. I don't think it's ever been fair for him.
Honestly, I think it.
And I get the whole triple.
I think it might have came from Skip, to be honest with you. And
that's what I'm saying. All this shit is like media shit. It's all like media because, like, if you're watching the games, Westbrook is like one of the smartest passers. He last 3 minutes of the game, it gets ugly. Don't get me wrong, and he can definitely stand around and just not cut or use his athleticism on defense. He definitely does some lazy shit out there. Don't get me wrong, especially for how hard he plays for loose balls and this and that. But just as a point guard, I want to say he's as good as anybody. He may not have the feel for the game like Chris Paul has, but he very much knows how to dictate a pace, knows how to get players shots where they need to. I think the narrative around him his entire career has been unfair.
The one knock thing that I really have with him was there was sometimes late in games where he called his own number where I felt it should have been a Durant number. Yeah. Like, there were just certain, but like, and that happens. But again, that happens with everybody. That's not like just a Westbrook only thing. I just felt like there were kind of too many times where, like, he would call, because obviously he did bring the ball up the floor, as you were saying. He did dictate pace. He did dictate the offense. I just felt there were some times where he would look for his number when the number is Kevin Durant at that time, depending. Obviously, if you get a great matchup, then you get a great matchup. So that's what I felt with Westbrook, got a little bit off. And then my number one problem always with him has been he feels he's a three-point shooter. He's not. And there was a stretch of time where he decided that I'm going to shoot a bunch of threes when he wasn't a good shooter.
Josh Smith syndrome.
When Westbrook, especially in his prime, was not shooting threes and just shooting his mid-range jump shots, getting to the basket, pick and roll, getting people involved, unstoppable. I just hated him shooting threes. Like, he needs to take everyone now and again because you got to keep a defense honest to at least try to contest you. But, man, there would be some times where he'd just fall in love with taking the three when it could just be 2 more dribbles that pull up 15-footer that you'll make. But that was really my gripes with Westbrook. Other than that, I've always felt that he plays hard, plays the right way, great teammate, and been a great person too. He's never been a person who's gotten involved with anything. He's always been a model citizen in the NBA. So you don't really hear bad things about him as a teammate ever. So I always felt it was a misrepresentation on Westbrook.
Yeah, Russ is, any way you slice it, probably
really
a top 50 player of all time. So no Russ land over here from me on this side. But do you have? What else do you have for the NBA?
A question for you, actually.
Yeah, keep going. Keep the questions coming.
Question. Okay, so I don't remember if I talked to you about this or not, but I had to do a top 5 list for school for my class. So for like one of the discussions, it was put together like a 2-minute presentation giving like a top 5 whatever. I could make it of whatever I want. So I did the top 5 players of the last 10 years, and I had, in order, I'm going to go 5 to 1. I had Kawhi, KD, Giannis, Steph, LeBron. Would you have... Okay, and it was from the 2012-2013 season to last year. So it would have been from, obviously, 66 and 16 LeBron to the last year's Steph. Would you have someone over Kawhi? Because like the conversation would have been either Kawhi, Jokic, or Westbrook, Jokic.
Harden's the one for me.
And then Harden. Would be
Harden.
You would have Harden over Kawhi.
So you're going for, what are the years? 2012 to 2022.
Yeah. So like the 2012-2013 season. So the season right after the Thunder lost. So 2012-2013 season to the 2021-2022 season, because that was an actual 10-year sample size.
Wouldn't that be 9 years? 13 to 22. Wouldn't it be 12 to 22?
Yeah, it is, because it's 12 to 13, 13, 14, 14, 15, 15, 16, 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, 19,
But if it's
20,
12,
20,
13, that's a
21,
2013.
21,
You get what I mean? So I've always looked at that as like 2013. Yeah. It starts in 12, but it's the 13 season. So to me, that's a 9-year sample size. But either way, that doesn't really change.
Yeah, it's weird, but yeah, that last year from the 2012-2013 to last year was 10 seasons. So I did a rant, and that was Kawhi, and what I added in with it was, obviously I had all NBA teams, because I went through and like thoroughly went through this. I had all NBA teams, championships, finals, MVPs, things like that. But really, it was all NBA teams, defensive player of the years, all those kind of things. So. And I ended up leaning Kawhi over Harden, which that was tough. Kawhi over Jokic has to now kind of be in that conversation with the 2 MVPs. You've got Westbrook as well. And then you really couldn't put Lillard, even though like word of mouth, or Anthony Davis, like those 2 players couldn't really be there. So it was really just them. It was like Harden was really your conversation piece.
To me, the debate would be Harden versus Giannis more so, just because Giannis' success more so came in the 2020s. Obviously, he was still an impact player at the end of the 2010s, but where he's become iconic, if you want to say that, is the 2020s. So the first 5 players I think of when you say the 2010s would be everyone you mentioned. LeBron, Curry, Durant, Kawhi, and then Harden. Like, that would be my 5 players of the decade for that decade. So, yeah, my mind immediately went to Harden versus Giannis for that. Obviously, I see why you would have Giannis. Like you said, he's got the defensive player, he's got the multiple MVPs, got a championship. Harden does not have a championship. But that would be my debate, especially if we kept it to 2010s. But if you're saying from the 2013 season to the 2022 season, I would agree with that. I mean, that's kind of always been my thing, is you got to give the players with the ring a nod. And I guess where it would be Kawhi would be the games played. I see that's where your argument probably is for Harden. So in any event, whoever, I think Harden would be 5B on it. But Harden's got the biggest argument over anybody for that last spot. Because, like I said, if it was we're keeping it to the 2010s, my lineup would be Curry at the point, Harden at the 2, Durant or Bron 3 or 4, and then
Yeah.
or one of them at the 5, and then Kawhi and whoever else is the swings. Those 3 small forwards right there.
You can go LeBron at the 5 with, obviously he played a little bit of 5 in that 2012-13 season against the Pacers. But, so I was going through. LeBron played 722 games. Steph played 710. Giannis 703. Kevin Durant 598. Harden 763. And Kawhi 546. So Kawhi played the least amount of games. But when you went through, Harden had 4 All-NBA first teams. Giannis had 4 All-NBA first teams. KD had 3. Steph had 4. LeBron had 7. Obviously, you have LeBron had 1 MVP. Steph had 2. Giannis had 2. KD had 1. Harden had 1. Kawhi hasn't had any. So, the individual stats is kind of where Kawhi tails off a little bit. But he does have those 2 defensive players of the year. All of them, other than Harden, on my list, weirdly enough, all of them have an All-Star Game MVP.
Kawhi has 2 defensive players of the year?
Yes, he does.
What years? I know he has 1.
Yeah, let me tell you real quick. It was back to back. It was 2014, 15, and 15, 16.
By the way, shouts to Pau Gasol,
Yeah, it's weird. Draymond only has...
Shouts to Pau Gasol on his jersey getting retired tonight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well-deserved. Well-deserved. But, it's weird because Draymond only has 1, and mentally, I feel he has more.
I would think Draymond has...
Kawhi has 2, then it was Draymond, then...
If you ask me, off the top of my head...
Because Rudy Gobert has 3.
If you ask me off the top of my head, even though I think Kawhi's a better... And Kawhi's right there with Pippen as far as on-ball defenders. But if you just ask me off the top of my head, I would have thought Draymond has 2 Defensive Player of the Years and Kawhi had 1. I thought they would have flipped. But, yeah.
If you think of the best through that time, even Kawhi was always the best perimeter defender to me, but Draymond was the best all-around defender in the league for that half a decade. Remember, from 14, 15-ish to the 2018-19 season. I always felt Draymond was the best defender in the league. Him or Kawhi, you could argue. And then Giannis obviously crept in there, but just becoming stronger, more athletic. But, yeah, so that was the interesting part for me. I was just thinking about that Kawhi and James Harden was the debate for me, but I ended up going with Kawhi. And then I ended up having Giannis over Kevin Durant. Even though Kevin Durant has the 2 rings and the 2 finals MVPs, Giannis does have 1, but he actually has more individuals accolades than Durant in that time frame. With the more All-NBA teams during that, he had 6, KD had 7 when you put it together, but he has more All-NBA first teams and obviously the defensive first teams, the defensive player of the year as well. So that one was really hard between Giannis and Kevin Durant, and if someone switched that, I would not be mad at all. And then LeBron and Steph, it was interesting to think about it just because obviously the finals appearances, the rings, the MVP, Steph is right there with them, but LeBron's just been so consistent that it's hard to put Steph over LeBron. So it just had to be one.
I've said this before, the last 12 to 15 years of the NBA are going to be very hard to quantify due to the player movement. It's going to be very hard to quantify certain players. Just like people have with the argument against LeBron's rings. Well, he had to go against KD and the Warriors and this and that. Well, you don't get KD and the Warriors if LeBron doesn't go to Miami. You know what I mean? Players like Jimmy Butler bouncing from team to team to team. It's hard to quantify. It really is. It really is.
Kyrie. Kyrie's been on 5 teams.
It's going to be...
That's crazy to think that he's been on 5 teams.
Yeah.
Kawhi's been on 3.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to quantify. Kawhi's a little easier because when Kawhi's in there, they seem to be a contender, whatever team he goes to. If Kawhi's healthy, you're going to be a contender.
Oh, absolutely.
Kyrie, it's so hard because his game is as good as anybody's. I mean, it is and it isn't hard. It's not hard because he flames out in every organization he goes to. He finds his way to, burn his bridges. So, yeah, no, he's not going to be a franchise player the way Dame and Steph are, right? But you're going to have players.
It's the reason why you could almost go on to. I'll say it after.
No, I was just going to say, you won't be able to compare them as far as their careers go just because of we know he flames out, whatever. But game to game, if you're just watching highlights, and especially, those postseason highlights from when he was with the Cavs, you would say there's a very real argument between the three of those guys, because their games are so similar. Steph, Dame, Kyrie. And just the way, like I've said, the way NBA fandom is now where people won't even, people can't just be like, okay, such and such lost in the playoffs. Like, there's got to be so much discourse around it and, oh, why can't such and such win MVP? You know what I mean? Like, people, you're going to somewhere down the line after Kyrie's career is over, Keenan, you're going to somehow find yourself in a conversation with someone who probably didn't even watch these games talking about, oh, you got to admit Kyrie should have won an MVP somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, these are the conversations you're going to find yourself with some semi-casual to semi-serious NBA fan just because that's what NBA fandom is now.
Wait, that part cut out just a second for me. You said Kyrie should be an MVP?
No. I said there's going to be some point. No. I said that's funny. Imagine if we would have kept that and you would have just went with it and then we had a completely different conversation. No, what I said was 5 years from now, whenever Kyrie's out of the league, I said you someday will be talking with some semi-casual NBA fan who's going to convince themselves that Kyrie should have been an MVP at some point during his tenure, which there's no way that's true, you know what I mean? But people are going to think that just because... No,
absolutely. There's not even a year.
No, the only year he would have been even talked about would have been his first year in Boston, but then he got injured 2 months left in the season.
He got injured.
But
you got injured.
That's just such the discourse. People are so pissed that Jokic is on the verge of possibly winning his third MVP, which we don't know if he is because it's an actual debate. Embiid and Giannis have real shots and chances. And by the way, 5 weeks of games left to make their case. Mm-hmm. And people are already complaining about Jokic getting it. Perk even invoked fucking race into it. I don't even want to talk about that. There's been a stat padding narrative around Jokic. Watch one fucking game of
I saw
Watch
that.
one fucking game of Jokic and you'll see that's not the case. You know what I mean? I know I semi-accused Doncic of it today, but it's not really stat padding with Doncic as much as he just wants to put up 35, which I fucking would too if I was in the NBA. Anybody would want to put up 35, especially if you get the franchise handed to you.
It's cool.
But Jokic ain't even.
I get when you're gonna get a number sometime, but it's not stat. Stat padding to me mentally means I'm only playing to go for these stats.
Right.
I am
not the win.
Obviously,
not the win. These stats.
Obviously, yeah. The Jokic has won the last 26-0, or his last 26 games when when he gets a triple double. They're unbeatable when he gets.
They're undefeated when he gets a triple double.
Him getting. It's when he gets it, okay, they win. But what? Okay, so what I was saying was though is, I get it. Say Jokic has 9 assists and maybe a 10th assist would get him past and 10th all time on triple doubles or whatever he is at right now. Yeah, he's gonna look for it. They know the stats at those points. Sometimes they don't, but sometimes someone's in his ear try to go for it. So cool. He's gonna try to go get a milestone, but I wouldn't say he's not gonna just completely ruin the flow of the game and just do things that he would never do to go get these stats. That's stat padding. That's what that is. It's you're gonna play completely different from how you are just to get a statistic.
Couple counters.
Jokic has never done.
Couple counters to that.
To me, at least.
The only reason I disagree with that, this doesn't even matter, but you said if he had a milestone, he might go for it. The only reason I'm going to disagree with that is because I saw a video. Excuse me. I saw a video today from, I believe, All-Star Break, where he was talking to people, some media outlet from his native country, right? Serbian, I believe.
Yep.
And they asked him about being on the brink of possibly getting a third straight MVP. And he said, and he wasn't just saying this like on some media literacy shit. You could tell he was being earnest. He was like, I don't even care. He's like, I don't want it. He's like, I wish. They're like, you could be in the class with Larry Bird. And he's like, Larry Bird can keep it. He's like, I don't want any of that. Like and Michael Malone will come out and say like, this guy could care fucking less about stats. There's that. But I thought this whole discourse was interesting because, and again, I didn't want to talk about all this, but I don't know if you saw this. Giannis was 1 rebound short of a triple-double, did the Ricky Davis, threw it off his own basket to himself to get the 10th rebound. And no one said shit about it. And I was very surprised Giannis did that. That's like up there with Jokic as far as some of the last players I would expect to do that. You know what I mean? Giannis of all players did it. Then the NBA rescinded it, which I was glad to see. They took the rebound away and said it was not an earnest shot attempt. So that was actually cool of them. But
good.
Yeah, no,
Good.
I think stat padding is. I have one response to that on the Jokic end, and then I want to say to Westbrook, because Westbrook was someone who was actively accused of this. The only thing I'll say about Westbrook, I don't think he stat pads assists. I don't think he stat pads anything, really, especially now. But that year after Durant left, and really those 3 years, however long he was in OKC after Durant left, on free throws, Adams would box out and everyone would box out, and they'd let Westbrook get the rebounds. That's a fact. And you can look at Steven Adams' rebound numbers those years specifically in OKC after Durant left and compare him to now when he's in Memphis, and you can see it. All right, he's playing like the same amount of minutes, maybe even less now.
I mean, you can watch the games too and see it.
Exactly. So that's the only time I've seen Westbrook stat pad was for the triple-double record. Whatever, because I really do think outside of that, Westbrook does not give a fuck. Or maybe he cares, but like he cares about winning overall. Blah, blah, blah. At a point here I want to say with Jokic. I fucking left. I got to stop smoking weed because I fucking forgot. But I had, what the fuck was it? Oh, that's exactly what it was. Jokic, he's one of the least athletic players in the NBA, correct? Would you say that?
Absolutely.
You know how much energy it would take for him to stat pad if that was, you know what I mean? Like Westbrook, we'll keep it there because he's one of the most athletic players. Probably easier for Westbrook if he wanted to stat pad than Jokic. Jokic cannot jump over a phone book. It's not like he can just fucking sit there and like tap the ball off the backboard and get stats. You know what I mean? Like he's just not. It's not like he's got like JaVale McGee's athleticism.
It's not him.
You know what I mean? He just can't do it. You know what I mean? It would take him so much more energy to chase those stats than it would to win a game. So, yeah.
No, absolutely. And I don't think he stat pads. I mean, he just plays the game the right way. So
saying that about Jokic would be like, you might as well say the same thing about Tim Duncan, too. You know what I mean? Like, Tim Duncan stat padded, too. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so far out of how they play. Like, you can literally just watch them play, and you know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. I kept going in my head that I had a point that I wanted to get back to with something we were talking about. Couldn't remember. Just did.
See, happened to you,
so you were talking about Kyrie.
Yeah.
Yeah, happened to me too. Mine's not cannabis related. Anyways. So with Kyrie, obviously, go back 6 years in your head. Kyrie hits a shot over Steph. They win the finals. There's a conversation to be had for people like, would you rather have Kyrie or Steph? Like, I mean, obviously, people mostly would say Steph, but that was at the media, Kyle.
I don't even remember.
Whenever I'm saying
I don't even remember that in the
media.
I don't even remember that in the media, honestly.
I remember people.
I've honestly,
people were saying at that time it's because Steph missed the big shots in that game and Kyrie was making them. It was more so like I understand what Steph is and how he is, but then like Kyrie is a more clutch player, and obviously being a more clutch player means you're a better player in today's society of media. I'm not saying that it's completely true or I'm agreeing with that. I'm just saying that was kind of, anyways. Kyrie was in that conversation ish of around Steph. At least we all agree with that, right?
I guess I think the
Like
only conversations I've had about Kyrie in relations to Steph or Dame in relations to Steph, I feel like it's always been brought up like in around people we're talking, like basketball conversations with, our friends or something like that. I just personally don't recall it in the media, but go ahead anyway.
I do, but even so, Kyrie has the talent to be mentioned with Steph, correct? Absolutely. He has the talent to be mentioned with Dame and Steph, as we were talking about earlier. Like, it's like with Kyrie, it always upsets me because like his off the court problems and his sometimes lack of commitment to a team, as you well know in Boston, and like how he flames out, puts him in like, I have a question for you. Like, because of those things, would you rather have Drew Holiday or Kyrie?
I mean, come on, it has to be Drew Holiday. But that's the thing with Kyrie. You just mentioned the talent. His talent is the reason why.
Absolutely.
His talent is the reason why, like, he had 5 or 6 teams still offering him, trade offers in this past trade deadline. And we'd heard over the summer when he first requested a trade or whatever happened there, that it was literally only the Lakers who would be willing to take him on. I mean, it's a theory as old as time when it comes to sports. You got a talented player, no matter if he's a head case, no matter if he's got injury issues, no matter what, teams are going to be willing to take a chance, Any team's going to be able to talk themselves.
Josh Gordon got like 8 chances. Antonio Brown got like 8 chances.
Exactly.
Like, they were so good that people were going to consistently give them chances to be successful because of how they could produce for that roster, regardless of the issues. Josh Gordon, a completely different issue than Antonio Brown, but yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, having lived through the Kyrie experience, I would probably rather have Drew Holiday on my team. Was I willing to take that Kyrie risk at that moment? Absolutely. That first season, there was no indication that it would end the way it did. Before the next season, he was saying how he was going to re-sign with Boston to the season ticket holders. Around the All-Star break, shit went all the way left with Kyrie, and he started displaying behavior that he's displayed in Brooklyn, and we'll see how long it lasts in Dallas. We'll just see. Yeah. And look, that's part of the reason. I mean, we've got recordings of this.
That's crazy to me, though.
What's up? What you said?
So I was just saying that's great. Like, Kyrie, you would rather, me agree, I would much rather have Drew Holiday than Kyrie Irving because of the consistency of Drew Holiday. Obviously, he's a great player. He can score, he can pass, he can play defense, maybe the best defensive guard in the league. But, Kyrie, but the talent of Kyrie is one that you would mention with Steph, you would mention with Ja, you would mention with Dame, which are your 3 best point guards in the league. But you would rather have probably the 6th best point guard in the league, roughly 5 or 6, in Drew Holiday over Kyrie because of all that stuff. That's kind of crazy to me. I don't.
It is and it isn't.
I don't know. I always feel like when you
Holiday's a tough
but
comparison because I think he's supremely underrated. I think Holiday's playing at as high of a level as a lot of guys right now. Jalen Brunson's getting a lot of...
Oh, he is underrated.
Jalen Brunson's getting a lot of attention for the level he's playing at right now. I think Holiday's playing at that level all around. You know what I mean? Not just in the scoring department, with his playmaking, with his defense.
He has been.
I think Holiday's quietly... you mentioned your top 20 list. I think Holiday's in there. I think he has to be in there. You know what I mean? I think that's the level Holiday's at right now.
Listen, I'm fine, and I'm even fine with you saying that. He was one of the couple that with Paul George I was jostling with.
Paul George,
I think James Harden's too good of a passer and playmaker that he has to be in it. But Paul George, if you want to take him out and you put Drew Holiday in there, no argument for me at all. Absolutely no argument for me at all. And maybe tomorrow I would feel the same way as you do.
Like I don't think Paul George should have been an all-star at that point in time. You look at it right now, yeah, he looks like an all-star, but 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, I don't think he should have been selected. And I didn't think Harden should have been selected at that time. Now you look at it 3 weeks from now, Harden looks like he should have been a shoo-in all-star. But no, Holiday, I think
he could have almost been a starter.
I think Holiday, yeah, right, for real. I think Holiday's playing in the top 20, 22 players in the league. Top 18, really. I would put Holiday right now. Just off the top of my head, not even thinking. But, you know, in relation to Kyrie, man, like, he's just, what he does is so God-given. Like, you can't even, like, some moves he does, you don't even know how the fuck he did it. You know what I mean? That's why at one point in time, I compared him to MJ on here. I said he's MJ without the athleticism because, you know, not to get in a whole other conversation, but that's what a lot of the shit is when people are talking about MJ. It's not even the numbers and the championships. This is how fucking beautiful Michael Jordan's game was. Like, how his body control, his, you know, everything about it. His game was just insane, you know? And that's what it is with Kyrie. When you compare him to Dame and Steph, like, he did this one move. You've seen it a million times. It was when he was on the Celtics. He was playing against the Bucks. He did a spin move at the top of the key, and like he did it as a player was converging on him, and he did it like with such perfect timing. Seemingly, it didn't look like he saw the guy coming, and it's like, how did he know how to do that spin move at that exact moment? You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of shit with Kyrie.
He's legitimately the definition of poetry in motion.
Yeah, he is.
Like, that's exactly that's what Kyrie is.
I mean, I think before we started talking about Holiday, I think I was gonna say I think we started this podcast around the time Kyrie flamed out in Boston, like that series against Milwaukee. So that would have been 2019. That's crazy to think we started this that long ago. And oh, this is what I was gonna say. So naturally, I very much disliked Kyrie leaving Boston. How he left what could have been a championship situation in Boston. I feel like we very much could have competed with Golden State, and we matched up well with Golden State, even with Durant. And you know, you mentioned the off-court stuff with Kyrie. It's almost endeared me to him once again, just for how true he stayed to himself. How he's not afraid to speak his mind. How he's not afraid to not really conform. That's almost endeared me more to Kyrie. Like, I'm back on like I don't even hate Kyrie anymore. You know what I mean? I'm like back on the bandwagon. He is whenever I get these little Keenan whispers. So now I need to hear what you said under your breath. But I'll continue this. I'll continue this first and just say.
I just said he upsets me so much.
Right? Yeah. He is. He is
so much. That was it.
He is frustrating. But whenever it is he retires, 5 years from now, 8 years from now, who knows what it is? He's gonna be such an interesting case study to look back on, just because of his career, his stops, where he went, who he played with, his talent level, what he can do with the ball, compared to what his
Pistol Pete,
compared to what his actual accolades will be, because he should have more All NBAs. He really should. And you know, when their career is all said and done, if we want to loop those three together, Steph, Dame, and Kyrie, Dame's gonna have more All NBAs than Kyrie, I would imagine, especially second teaming up.
Dame's gonna be a better player all time than Kyrie. But
depending,
in my opinion, but
I mean, yes and no.
I think Dame will probably end his.
Kyrie's always gonna have that ring. Is the thing, and we'll see. That's to be determined.
Yeah, no, you're right. He will always have that ring, and he'll always have a. I mean, obviously, until there's more shots, but as of right now, he has a top 5 shot in NBA history.
Mm-hmm.
Like, memorable shot. Like, obviously, you think of Ray Allen's shot in the corner. You think of Mike over Craig Elo. You think of or Mike Byron Russell more so because that was the finals. You think of Kyrie over Steph. You think, like, those are some of the shots that you think about when you think of the NBA finals or the NBA playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Dame has them too. So Dame is in that conversation because he has them too. But So he's always going to have that moment of having one of the best plays technically and one of the best plays in NBA Finals history. And being a part of one of the better series in NBA Finals history too. But so he's just such an interesting guy, and he just upsets me. But because you had mentioned it, just wanted to give a date to it. April 10th, 2019 was the first podcast ever. That was the YouTube podcast. Then we went through. We had a little drop, and then March 12th, 2020, the COVID happened, and that was our first one that we went on streaming services.
DSPs.
But our first one was named 2020 because obviously, rest in peace to Nipsey. But Westbrook had the 2020 game.
That was our first episode.
That was the first one we ever did. That one and Tragic Johnson.
I remember that.
Looking at it now.
I remember that.
We dropped both of those on April 10th.
we had a couple before Nipsey one.
Nope, that was the first one we ever had ever.
Oh, shit.
Crazy to think. But it's April 10th, 2019 was the first ever podcast from the Warner Brothas. And then now we're here.
You said April 19th, so that's like 6 weeks away. I can't believe it's been that
April 10th, 2019. So
I can't believe it's been that long since Nipsey passed. That's crazy. Or Nipsey left.
I know. Almost 4 years.
How many rappers we've lost since then is crazy. To the same shit.
That's a whole nother conversation. That is a whole that's a book there.
Wow, that's wild. But
yeah.
What else? What other NBA questions you got for me? I know you got more.
That was honestly a lot of what I had. I mean, obviously, going into who do you have? I mean, finals-wise, we really talked about the landscape of the West already. The East is less interesting because we really have like the three-headed monster in Philly, Boston, and the Milwaukee, not in that order. And then you have Cleveland lurking, and then you can't just like sleep on the Knicks or the Heat because they can make a tough series. The West is what's interesting because there's 6 teams that can make the finals, and you'd be like, oh, that makes sense. Like, I get it. Like, that could happen. And then, like, you throw in the Lakers there, too, if they manage to pull it all together, which I don't think they will. But, like, for some reason, if LeBron comes back and it's AD, LeBron together. But other than that, I really didn't have – those questions were pretty much all I had, unless you have anything at all.
You know what? I'll save – I'm not sure when we're coming back, but I'm gonna save.
Neither am I.
I'm gonna save some Celtics talk for next time, and I'm hoping we can get John Williams to feature because I know John's got a lot of shit to say about the Celtics. But since I'm touching on it right now, I'll just say it. I would have Philly and Milwaukee ahead of Boston at this moment, just like I was saying with the players earlier. At this moment today, March 7th. 2023, I think Milwaukee and Philly are better teams than Boston today. Boston is trending down to me. Boston's coach, who's a rookie coach, is looking very much like a rookie coach at this point in time. They are just having issues and losses that they should not have at this point in time of the season. This was January, I wouldn't say shit. This was November, I wouldn't say shit. It's March. Playoffs are, like I said, in about 5 weeks. And the Celtics just do not play with the fire and the intellect that I'm looking for right now. And as far as the coach goes, I'm not sure he knows his best 8 right now or his rotations exactly. There's much to be desired from the coach. And the East, like you said, the East is weird, but the Cavs is no joke. The Knicks are no joke. And nobody wants to see the Heat in the first round right now. The Heat, and I'll throw the Knicks in there too. I already said the Knicks, but the Knicks are in that Heat class where that's the last type of team you want to see. The Celtics have had...
It's just a tough series. They're going to get a game or two, maybe 3, depending on how the series goes. But they're going to get a few games, and they're going to just make it completely tough on them.
They're dogs.
And that's the thing that sucks. Like
Brunson's a true postseason guy. Randall can get his points, and they're so well coached defensively. And they're just a smart team. They're not a dumb team. And that's they've got some vets, but they've got a lot of youth, and they play very smart.
Their lefty trio. The lefty trio
is tough. No, they're incredibly impressive. Josh Hart is such a perfect fit for them. Look, Boston's got so much talent.
They're literally they're a superstar away from being perfect.
Hey,
to me,
I don't want to be too early here, but next year they could be contender status, the Knicks. And it's weird that we're here, but it's
wait. With as presently constructed,
you can just tell what direction they're headed. An 8-9 game win streak is no joke at any point in the NBA. Their front office has done a great job, and they're just trending in that direction. If they're a 5 seed this year, shit, they could get to a 4 seed. They're not that far behind the Cavs. Naturally, you're gonna improve. They're young enough. They will have roster moves to make. I'm not sure what their cap situation is, but they'll be able to make trades. They didn't make the move for Donovan Mitchell in hopes to get the next guy. Look, someone's going to want to play in New York, and someone's going to want to play in New York that's trending upward. You know what I mean? I think it's hilarious that KD and Kyrie, we mentioned Kyrie, they were in Brooklyn the last 4 years, on a contender. Like it went left every one of those years for whatever reason, health or otherwise. But they never claimed the city the way the Knicks did. And as soon as they leave, the Knicks go on this 8-game win streak, and they're the kings of the city still. And they never really left, even though Brooklyn had KD and Kyrie. So it's hilarious to me. And
the Knicks. I mean, the Nets won one playoff series in 4 seasons of having Kyrie and Kevin Durant on the roster. We're going to look back on that stretch of time and think that was one of the biggest failed experiments that we've seen.
Oh, without a doubt.
We really are going to look, because, what?
I said without a doubt. We already do.
Yeah, it's just... Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm just
but
saying,
in 10 years it's going to look crazy to think.
Obviously, we're in the... Yeah, because right now we're thinking, even though it failed, we're thinking, okay, so Harden's on the Sixers and they're balling out. They could go win a title this year. We got Phoenix right now. Those probably looking, the Nuggets. I think we should be the favorite just because of the camaraderie, but talent-wise, the Sixers are the Suns are the favorite. And then you have Dallas with
the Suns.
Luka and Kyrie.
The Suns are the betting favorite in the West right now.
No, I said the Nuggets are the favorites, but I said talent-wise, you could look at the Suns as being the favorites.
Oh, got you, my fault.
But I think the Nuggets are the favorites.
Probably.
Yeah, I think the Nuggets are the favorites, but I'm saying talent-wise, when you look, you're like, okay, so that's KD, that's Devin Booker, that's Chris Paul, that's DeAndre Ayton. You look, you're like, okay, if they can put it together in this short of time, that's the reason why you wouldn't have it. You'd be more a next-year team of being the favorite if they can keep everything together, add a role player or two.
I'll say this about Phoenix real quick about Phoenix. They look pretty damn scary. They look pretty scary. I'm not sure how that's going to look over a 7-game series, especially defensively. But Booker and KD...
these players have played together before.
True. I mean, but adding KD with 15 games left in the season is no easy feat. And
it's absolutely tough. But, if you're going to add any player in the league to any situation, he's probably top 2 to 3 for what player, as a superstar.
He's pretty adaptable.
Fit.
He's pretty adaptable.
Because he is just so adaptable. You don't need to be like, okay, so now we got to change how the ball completely goes. It's like, all right, he's fine not touching it for a few possessions and give it to him. Devin Booker's not going to miss shots. It's going to be up to Chris Paul to not take too much of a back seat scoring-wise, because I think they're going to need his scoring, but obviously more of his playmaking than anything. But I think scoring-wise, they're going to need him to pick and choose his spots, and I hope he just doesn't take too much of a back seat to Durant and Devin Booker, but he's such a smart point guard that he'll be able to figure that out and get it done. So that's really the only, and then obviously making sure that Ayton is involved enough to where he plays consistent defense, because that could be, well, obviously as a big, you always hear, if you don't get the ball enough on offense, I'm not going to work on defense for it. So, and Ayton feels like a guy who can kind of come and go a little bit. So that's really what it's going to come down to for the Suns, but it's going to be real interesting. I'm really excited. I'm hoping for them and the Warriors in the first round, or them. Actually, I'm really hoping for them and the Mavericks in the first round, because I think that offensive showcase would be phenomenal.
I would definitely enjoy Phoenix Mavericks first round, especially after this past Sunday's game. Gun to your head right now, who wins the championship?
Probably Milwaukee.
Huh?
Probably Milwaukee.
I agree with you. Gun to my head, I'd pick the Bucks right now.
Probably.
All right, who's there? Gun to your head, who's
again? We were just
gun to your head. Who's the Western Conference participant? Bucks versus who? Gun to your head.
Phoenix. Probably gun to my head.
Gun to my head, I'd probably take Denver right now, but I'm more optimistic about Phoenix than I was.
Phoenix,
7 days
Denver,
ago.
Golden State. In that order.
That's my 3.
Phoenix, Denver, Golden State in that order.
That's probably my 3 in some order. Probably Denver. I need to see Golden State for like 2.5 weeks, you know? Like they lost.
Yeah, I need to see him with Wiggins back too.
Exactly. They haven't had their full roster in forever. So they lose tonight to OKC, but like you said, without Wiggins. I just need to see them
full roster.
And GP, we need to see GP back too.
Yeah, I was gonna say once because then they'll have a legitimate 8 to 9 that they'll play, because that they'll be able to actually go, because Kuminga has definitely earned himself like legitimate minutes. He's been playing well, and then they also have like their Andre Iguodala's been playing a little bit, so he's good to just throw in for 5 minutes of just being smart.
That's how bad it is for Kerr. Kerr put him in crunch time against LA the other day, just because he needed somebody who knows something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The one thing I want to say is that, and this is gonna be my last point. One thing I want to say, I think Iggy still might have the best hands in the league. Like for some reason, whenever hands? Like a big is going up, or like just quick hands, like I've never seen, like watching like game for game. Not that there has never been a player like that, but game for game watching, I've never seen a guy who has better hands. Like he
does get a lot of strips.
Always strip the ball from big. Like, just always seems like if a big's going down, like a spin move, he'll just strip it, or like quick hands here, quick hands there. Like he just seems to always have his hands in perfect position without fouling. I don't remember seeing anything as consistent.
There's
like
definitely an art. There's definitely an art to stripping
basketball.
because. Sorry to cut you off, my fault, but there's an art to stripping because
an art to stripping.
No, for real. There's an art to stripping the ball from an opposing player, because it's either that or like a hard foul. You know what I mean? Because whenever you're stripping at the ball, you're not doing it ever softly. You know what I mean? You're hacking at the ball with a player on its way up. So yeah, it's a risk between a hard foul or a clean strip. So yeah, there's definitely an art to it. One last question for you.
That's something that you actually do in your basketball game well, like your personal basketball game. That's something you do.
I have been complimented on my quick hands, and I meant to ask someone. I got to ask D-Roy. I want to ask D-Roy. Actually, was thinking about this the other day. How quick are they exactly when it comes? Or I'll ask you, how quick are they compared to other players defensively? Are they that quick? There's a reason why I'm asking this. I'm not going to disclose that reason yet, but
okay. They are. So when you're locked in and focused, you are probably one of the more annoying defenders I go against, just because your hands are quick. I have size on you, so I'm able to like put my body in between the ball. But there's a lot of times on like a quick drive by that you'll just get your hand in there enough to just annoy me, to where I kind of lose the ball, or something happens to where I'm like a little bit off of rhythm. So your hands are very cool.
How much quicker are they?
Probably some of the.
How much quicker are they than your average? Did not expect to have a conversation about how quick these hands are, but
I did.
Throw a jab real quick at the
pretty
camera.
quick, honestly. So if your average hands, I'm just gonna put at a 75, you would be like an 85. 87-ish, so like very like obviously if your average is like a C, you'd be like at that B plus level to where your hands are very quick, if that makes sense.
There's a reason why I'm
like
asking,
much quicker than the average because. Oh, okay. Am I gonna know now? Or am I gonna know later?
another time. It's nothing. Nothing.
Okay.
It was more just a general question, but it does relate to other shit too. I do have one more question for you though.
But yeah, no, your hands are very. Yeah, what's up?
So we saw the Ravens put the non-exclusive tag on Lamar Jackson today at $32.5 million. Daniel Jones is going to sign with the Giants for 40. We did think if they were going to tag,
Is that officially a thing?
yeah, they're going to tag Saquon, and Daniel Jones has got a $160 million 4-year deal. I personally would have tagged Jones and tried to work out some. What are you, a Giants fan now?
I don't like that. I don't like that. No, I don't like that deal at all for the Giants.
Yeah, it's a pretty questionable deal. I would have went. I would have gave Daniel Jones like a 2-year deal.
40 mil for
I might have gave him the 40 mil, but like a 2-year deal with like, the third.
I would have tried to give that Kirk Cousins deal.
I don't know, 40 million is
Like
a lot.
Kirk Cousins had that like 2-year extension. He had that 2-year extension with like 28 to 30 million guaranteed both years, like on a 2-year extension. I would have tried to give him a deal around that, but 40 mil. I'm not a Giants fan, but
Well, let me ask you this, all right? So
that one for me.
So Lamar gets the 32.5, which means teams have the ability to come and match. The Jets have talked to Rodgers today, I believe, or in the process of talking to him.
Yeah, they're in the process. Yep.
Teams that were thought to be in the Lamar Jackson market, like the Falcons, they're out. Falcons have openly said they are out on Lamar Jackson. The Dolphins said they're out on Lamar Jackson. Yeah. Pretty much every team, the Raiders might not be out, but most teams that we thought would be in on Lamar Jackson are in fact out. So, I mean, I thought it was ridiculous anyway that Lamar would ever get a fully guaranteed contract because you just don't see that for any football player, really. So, and the Deshaun contract's such an outlier. Like, the Browns have been such a joke of a franchise, and they, proved how desperate they were that they were willing to throw all that money as someone who'd been out of football for 2 years.
Yeah.
And, but
absolutely.
Lamar's basing his market off that Deshaun contract. They tag him at 32.5. Teams are going to be able to come and match it. And instead of even hearing rumors about where he might go within the first 8 hours, what we're getting is all these teams saying, nah, we're good. So this almost looks like a genius move by the Ravens, because you get to see, some team is going to come in and make an offer, but let's say it's $42 million. That's going to set the market. You know what I mean? And if it's $42 million, the exclusive tag was going to be 45. If someone goes in there at 42, the Ravens are going to match that. You would think. You know what I mean? So, in a way, this might work out for Baltimore. But my question to you would be, given that information, where do you gun to your head? Where's Lamar going? Again, this is without very little information and, a lot to still develop here. But gun to your head, where's Lamar going?
So Atlanta said they were out on him. What other teams? Just out of FYI, because I did not see this yet. But do you know what other teams off the top of your head?
Like I'll say this now. The one that's picking up right now is that he could go to the Lions. Would be the main one. But the Falcons and Dolphins.
See, because that was the
are out.
Falcons and Dolphins. Okay,
but there was a list of like 5.
Because the Lions to me. I said this when you and Timmy were talking about this. I said the Seattle Seahawks and the Lions make the most sense for Lamar. They've got the draft picks.
And Geno just got signed the other day.
That the Ravens would definitely trade for. So, yeah. So that one. So Geno makes sense because obviously he had a great season with Jared Goff there. Obviously he played really well last season as well. But I think Detroit makes a lot of sense. I would say my top three would be Detroit 1. So if a gun to my head, I'd put Detroit. 2, I'd probably put Baltimore. And then 3, I would put Carolina.
Carolina's one of the teams that are out on him.
Oh, what? Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, so never mind. Forget the Carolina thing. That would make sense. I would love him to come to New England, but that's a whole other thing. I wanted them to draft him. I was upset when they didn't, when they trade down and they go and get Sony Michel. But anyways, yeah, I think the Lions just make too much sense. As I said, they got the draft capital there, but they still will have draft capital to help that defense. Their offensive line is one of the best in football. They already have a really good back in DeAndre Swift. I think Jamal Williams is going to be let go to free agency. I don't know if they're going to re-sign him or not. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown there as well. You have Jamison Williams as well, who was injured, but he was from Alabama. He's amazing. At least it was in college, so we'll see what he is in the NFL. He's got everything he'll need offensively. And then all they need now, they have the franchise quarterback. They build the defense up, and they should be good for years. Aaron Rodgers is going to probably be out of the division. The Vikings are the Vikings. The Bears are interesting-ish because Justin Fields was interesting this year, but at the same time, you go into next year with the best quarterback in the division. You go in with probably the best offense to be them or Minnesota, depending on how you feel. Probably Minnesota talent-wise, but again, you have Lamar. And that division should be up for grabs for sure. So I think the Lions make the most sense, and if I'm the Lions, I would do it.
Yeah, the teams that are out on him are the Falcons, Dolphins, Panthers, Commanders, Raiders. I would imagine the Jets would be in on the sweepstakes if they don't get Aaron Rodgers, which would be scary.
Yeah.
So, in turn, if the
Rodgers to the Jets, he's just being Favre.
Yeah, right. And then he's going to go to the Bears or the Vikings the following year or some shit like that. I don't know. I don't know what to make of Rodgers either because he literally, you just mentioned Favre. He's literally playing out like Favre. You could tell me any scenario of Rodgers, him coming back to the Packers, him going to the Jets, him retiring. I believe any one of the three. Lamar Jackson, I'm just going to cut to the chase here. I still think he goes back to Baltimore, which I've been saying. I thought that was in jeopardy today when the news first dropped. They put the 32.5 on him. But since all these teams have come out now, up to 5 teams saying they are not interested in Lamar Jackson, now it does seem like the market would be Baltimore, Detroit, and Detroit really hasn't said whether they are or they're not interested, but you would think that they would be, and possibly the Jets. And if the Jets aren't in that mix, like you said, I would love for New England to be in that mix. I doubt they would be. And that's completely okay. You would have to change a lot around. But, man, he's worth the 2 first-round picks and whatever else it is to give up for him. I would love Lamar Jackson. Belichick seems to love Lamar Jackson, so I would say just go for it. But it really does seem like the market, and again, this is just 8 hours of news here, but it really does seem like the market might be, single-digit teams, less than 5 teams bidding against the Ravens. So we'll see. We shall see.
We will. We shall. Alrighty. Well, did you have any more that you wanted to add? Any other questions that you got?
I'm going to save NFL shit for when we have Tim on here. I got more NBA stuff for whenever we have John on. We'll be talking NBA at least every week. I do want to shout out Don Toliver for his album, Lovesick. That's an incredible album. Probably the best straight album I've heard. I mean, I've said I listen to Coke Boys 6 here quite a bit at the top of the year. Mm-hmm. That's a mixtape, though. So that's my most listened to project. But I think throughout this first quarter so far, Lovesick by Don Toliver is the best album I've heard top to bottom. Now, what I hate about it is that album dropped Friday before last, right? That following Monday, he comes out with the Deluxe with 4 new songs. So there was 3 days in between his Deluxe album dropping, and all he did was add 4 songs. Why not just make that the final product? Why not just release all that on Friday? So I continue to hate the Deluxe.
The point of a deluxe is supposed to be to, one, rekindle the flame for the album, and then 2, add new tracks while doing so.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be like months later.
You're supposed to have a deluxe.
It's supposed to be like months later, and it's supposed to like shock your fans. Like, oh shit, new music. Instead,
there's more.
Right, exactly. Instead, everybody gets a deluxe now. So I hate it.
Yeah, like when it wasn't a deluxe, but when Kendrick dropped Untitled Unmastered after performing
Stretch over here.
I think it was like Untitled 7 or Untitled 7 or 8 at one of the award shows. But when he dropped that, it was like, oh, you had other stuff that was phenomenal that didn't make the album? Oh, okay, that's great. Like, and it came out of nowhere, and you're like, oh wow, this is actually a really good project that's Untitled Unmastered, and it's better than a lot of other projects that were. It just shows how great Kendrick is, one, but you get a deluxe kind of thing from To Pimp a Butterfly, great. But now it's just like, okay, I'm gonna drop these tracks and I'm gonna drop a deluxe 3 days later. As you said, what's the purpose? What are we doing?
3 days later is unnecessary.
With the 4.
I could see if it was.
I was gonna say, you don't let the thing breathe for 72 hours, and then you're like, you know what? Let's give these people 4 more songs that I could have just added on the project itself.
And the worst part about it is, it happens so much where people do it like a whole week later. You know what I mean? From like Friday to Friday. Clearly, it's not the artist's decision. It's like the labels or whoever. So I can't fault Don for that. Mm-hmm. But literally, especially the fact that it was a 16-track album that became a 20-track album, just release all 20 and just save us. Like, oh, now I got to go back and download these next 4 songs. Like, it's just taking time out of my day.
Yeah, it makes
messing up my playlist and shit like that. But it's just a gripe as a music listener. Yeah. Phenomenal album. I suggest everyone go listen to Love Sick by Don Toliver. Blase blah. We're going to get a lot of great music this year. I cannot wait. We've already gotten a lot of great music throughout this first quarter. Crazy to think that we're 3 quarters through this first quarter. That's a lot of quarters right there. But, yeah, no, crazy to think that we're in March already.
Make $1.
Could make $1. But, yeah, no, I got plenty of football, basketball that I want to talk next week. Maybe we can get more music conversations in as we go. But, Keenan, great talking to you.
Absolutely.
We're on the next day from when we started. We are officially on a March 8th right now as we're recording. So I'm going to get out of here, go watch this, maybe the second half of this Lakers-Grizzlies game. And yeah, I'll be talking to you. So great talking to you. We'll talk off air. I got a few questions for you. But go like, subscribe, follow good. Warner Brothas Podcast. YouTube, Instagram, whatever else y'all want to follow us on, Twitter, Facebook. I don't even know. I can't even keep up at this point.
You guys have a good
Spotify,
night.
Apple Podcasts, etc., etc. We're out of here. Peace.